How's it going, everybody? The Annihilation raids are coming out tomorrow, but we got drama already. We got lots of juicy drama. We got the node rewards. We got the node compositions. We got the Omega raid already getting pushed back. And I think we got some bad math being done to get some clicks. We're going to talk about all that, Ed Board. Should be a fun video. If you agree with what we're going to talk about here, let me know in the comments. If you disagree, let me know in the comments as well, because apparently they're reading everything. Commanders, recently we shared the upcoming Annihilation raid. Yeah, recently. We shared the upcoming Annihilation raid with the Player Council and Envoys for playtesting and feedback. They raised some concerns on the Omega version of the raid that we agree with and would like to evaluate. I think this is a good thing. Listen, it's stupid that it has to happen the day before the raids actually come out to do a delay like this, but it is a good thing that they get delayed, right? With earlier testing, this can be avoided, but at the end of the day, I would much rather a full product, a full, acceptable product come out than something that is half-baked, and that is good. That's going to be good news. With that in mind, we are launching the Annihilation raid without an Omega version while we look at the options to ensure we are giving an excellent experience to our alliances. Again, I agree with this. They should put out the normal Annihilation raid part because we have the Hellfire Club is going to be done. Right? They're done when Sebastian Shaw is unlockable tomorrow by people that buy the super discount offer. The Annihilation raid will still launch on August 22nd at 2 p.m. in its standard form. Even without an Omega version, the standard Annihilation raid is just as rewarding. Now, this shouldn't be the case, right? The Omega version should be more rewarding than the Annihilation version. I'm sure this is just like a miscommunication here. But they continue. So you should see that your potential rewards are as good as or better than they were in the Chaotic Storm raids. This has been floating around. Somebody said that you're getting less rewards. We're going to do the actual math on that. That's just not true. It's a little bit disingenuous. You are getting as good or better. In fact, you're going to be getting better. The question is, of course, is it enough? Right? The question is always going to be when a new raid comes out, is it enough better for me to care about it? What is a fair amount to be better? Now, if there's a new progression path, we don't get to choose that. We have no anchor price. But if it's just a continuation of the progression path, which it is for Gear Tier 20 in this current raids, we now have an anchor. So how much is it fair to expect from a new raid to provide us extra Gear Tier 20? We'll talk about that. I have a number in my head, and I think actually most of you are going to agree with me. Players can use the individual raid difficulty feature to increase their challenge and potential rewards to level they prefer. With Annihilation, we've increased the number of difficulties to accommodate all eligible players. Yeah, the fact that we have 9 difficulties now does not equate to the 5 difficulties of Chaotic Storm. Like, difficulty 5 Chaotic Storm is the equivalent of difficulty 9 for the Annihilation raids. It's just so it's not as steep a jump when new players are working their way through it. Now, what I do find interesting is they use the word increase their challenge and potential rewards. You can also lower the difficulty on non-Omega raids because there's no completion, right? It's all about node rewards. So you can do the first 5 nodes on difficulty 9. If you don't have Hellfire Club, you can then jump down to difficulty 7, just do 2 X-Men nodes, and then bump it back up to difficulty 9 to get the most amount of node rewards in this normal version of the Annihilation raids. It's important to note that, okay? One key difference with the Annihilation raids is you will see there are fewer nodes for each player to clear, though the rewards have not been reduced. We've recognized that most players sim the raids, and having more nodes to sim each day was not an enjoyable experience. I will actually push back on this. That is not my experience. There are node rewards, even in the Chaotic Storm Omega version, that I will be missing because of this, and we will talk about the math on that. But I actually don't agree with this because hitting sim button takes 2 seconds, and if I'm getting more rewards for hitting that button more often, that's what I would do. It's pretty minimal. Maybe it's a paltry amount. We'll talk about that. You guys can be the judge. You should get value out of collecting and building your raid team, so we expect your daily run of the Annihilation takes less time than past raids, but still offers great value in the rewards. So here we got 2 different words, right? We hear offers great value in the rewards you earn, and we also see you should get value out of collecting and building your raid teams. There's 2 different ways value is used here. One is for rewards, one is in collecting and building. Am I really getting value in collecting and building the team if I'm simply hitting a sim button once a day for that team? I would argue no. So raid teams, in my opinion, need to have value outside of the raid game mode under this new structure. We'll talk about if that is the case or not. We recognize that the Omega version of a raid is important to our many organized and collaborative alliances, and we want to ensure we support your needs in this area. We look for ways to reward the coordination and group effort that alliances put into playing raids together, and we will share more details as soon as we can. Thank you for continuing to share your thoughts and helping us improve the experience. You're welcome. That's like directly to me, right? I'm the only one who said it? No, of course. Player's voice, lots of different envoys had a lot of opinions here, and it looks like they're listened to a good degree. All right. Let's do rewards first. I know that's what everyone is most interested in. Are we actually getting the same or more rewards? Well, this is the Annihilation raid. If we look at difficulty 7, we'll see that on the base rewards, the 100 antimatter, 3,000 gold. That's true for all the difficulties. Bonus rewards for difficulty 7, which you may have to do if you don't have the Hellfire Club, is 165 antimatter, 210 armory, 20 orb fragments, and 26,000 gold. Now, if we bump that up to difficulty 9, we, of course, get more rewards because this is the structure that these normal raids take. And it's going to be 200 antimatter instead of 165, 350 armory, 20 fragments instead of, what was it, 210? So that's quite a big difference. And 36,000 gold. That's another big jump, right? So in total, when we do a node on difficulty 9, we get 300 antimatter, 350 armory, 20 orb fragments, and 39,000 gold. That's pretty big. So let's go and compare this to the Chaotic Storm normal. You cannot compare it to the Chaotic Storm Omega because the completion rewards are different, and the rewards for Chaotic Storm Omega versus Chaotic Storm normal, they're also very different. So let's just go ahead and look at any node. 75 antimatter, 2,000 gold. With the bonus, this is difficulty 5 we're looking at. 125 antimatter, 130 armory, 20 orb fragments. That's a big drop, right? And then 24,000 gold. Now let's look at the Chaotic Storm Omega, and we're not going to see much here, right? Obviously, we lose a lane, 75 antimatter, 2,000 gold, still 125 antimatter, and still 24,000 gold on the bonus rewards. The difference, of course, from Omega is you get 2,400 for doing a 100% completion on the Omega version of the Chaotic Storm. So that 2,400 geared to 20 fragments, that is a locked-in number. So I did some math, and somewhere Scotty is cringing, but here's the math. The super scientific findings, you can bank on it. If you are a player that does more than 12 nodes in the Chaotic Storm, you're kind of getting wrecked a little bit, just a little bit here. Okay, I did some actual math. Okay. Annihilation rewards for difficulty 9. This is, of course, not the Annihilation Omega. The gold you'll earn daily for doing all 8 nodes is roughly 312,000. Antimatter is 2,400. Gear tier 20 frags, if you do everything on difficulty 9, is 2,800. If you got to drop down to difficulty 7 because you don't have Hellfire Club, it's 2,520. Chaotic Storm, on the other hand, you could cap out at 416,000 gold. 3,200 antimatter. Your gear tier frags are still lower at 2,080. This is bad math, though. This is not real. This is on 16 nodes, which you cannot sustain free-to-play without having to use cores. And I would never suggest using cores for the small amount of node rewards we just went over. Realistically, if you can only do 12 nodes, you will be getting a lot less than the Annihilation rates. Not a lot less. The gold and the antimatter is pretty much a 1-to-1 if you're doing 12 nodes in the Chaotic Storm, which is what you can accomplish free-to-play without having to core anything. So the gold and the antimatter is pretty much dead on. The gear tier 20 frags is lower, okay? But if you're doing the Chaotic Storm Omega, once again, you could cap out at 400. Actually, just to be super clear here, it's a lot less frags, right? That 2,080, that's on 16 nodes. So if we go ahead and we do, what is it? It's 130 per node, and we're only doing 12 nodes, then you're only going to be getting 1,560 gear tier 20 frags. So you're getting a lot more for doing the Annihilation normal than you are for doing Chaotic Storm normal. Get it straight there. But there's a lot of players that are doing Chaotic Storm Omega because it's sim content. You can do 100% on it as long as you have, 24 people in your alliance that care somewhat. You can get that done fairly easily. So again, the gold and the antimatter difference is kind of a mirage, and it's even more of a mirage here, because instead of there being a node for each player like there is in normal Chaotic, there's actually only 3 lanes in the Omega, so you're never going to get 16 nodes done. At least you never should be getting 16 nodes done. So waste of cores, and then you're taking nodes away from somebody in a pretty stark manner. But let's talk about the Gear 20 frags. So we are currently getting, if you do 100% Chaotic Storms, 2,400 Gear Tier 20 frags. If we are doing difficulty 9 on the Annihilation, and say we are dropping down difficulty 7 for the Hellfires, we're going to be getting a whole extra 120 fragments. If you do the math on that, that means every 16.666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666666 days, we will be getting an additional Gear Tier 20 orb. That's not enough, right? If we're doing difficulty 9 the whole thing, we're getting an additional 400 frags. So every 5th day, we get an additional Gear Tier 20 orb. That's still not enough. It's not. But what I would invite you to do is check out a realistic difference between the Chaotic Storm Omega rewards and the Chaotic Storm normal rewards. Chaotic Storm Omega gives 2,400. Chaotic Storm normal, as we just discussed, you're more likely getting about 1,560 because you're going to do 12 nodes a day. You're not doing 16 nodes a day, right? So that's like a 900 orb frag difference. So for Annihilation Omega rewards, if we add 900 on top of this, it starts to feel a lot better, right? The golden antimatter, I actually think that staying static is fine. If we're getting closer to that 4,000 frags daily, which I think is what Omega should give. Omega should give for 100% completion or 90% completion because that's what they're stopping at. It should give 4,000 frags, 2 orbs a day. Nearly doubling what we get. I think a lot of people want it to be doubled, which would be 4,800 a day. I don't think that's unreasonable either, to be honest with you. Because just as a matter of fact, when a new raid comes out, players are expecting one of two things. They're expecting a new progression path in which there is no anchor reward structure, so they can kind of do what they want to do with it, right? But we have the existing Gear Tier 20 progression system that's built in here. We all know that progression system isn't supposed to be the limiting factor as soon as Purple ISO comes out. When Purple ISO comes out, Purple ISO should be the thing in leaderboards. It should be the thing that unlocks the next mystic or mythical character, whatever the case may be. And Gear Tier 20 should be much more available. It only makes sense that this raid, the Annihilation raid, the Omega version, should really be raining the Gear Tier 20 on players. So is 4,800 the right number for the Omega completion? And we're just kind of okay with this Annihilation normal for right now? Is 4,000 for the Omega completion a nice enough number so we start getting 2 orbs a day? 14 orbs a week? 14 times 4 would be what? 40 times 14. 56 Gear Tier 20 pieces a week just from raids? Even that seems pretty low. So I get the question becomes like, what should the rewards be for the Annihilation? Yes, we are getting as much or more from the Annihilation raids with very little effort. I mean, we're gonna have the gameplay out on these nodes. I haven't actually done it yet, but I've gone through these nodes and I am not scared of any of these. That was Orcus. Night Stalkers actually has some interesting things here, but when you think about how it plays out mechanically, Songbird gives you offense down, but does not give you trauma without her team. So Blade's gonna flip it to offense up. I'm about to go do this on the playtest. We'll have that video come out tomorrow. But again, I've gone over these nodes. They look stupid easy. Stupid easy. But let's finish our conversation about the rewards. So yes, I don't think the rewards are currently in line with an Annihilation normal. I think that, if you don't have Hellfire, you're getting 120 extra frags daily. That's not enough to get excited about. It's a little unfair to compare it to the Omega version of the Chaotic Storms, but just a little unfair, right? The Annihilation Omega should definitely come out, and it should be awarding double or at least nearly double the Gear Tier 20. For the gold and the antimatter to stay roughly the same, I think that's fair because that's actually like a different economy that's not really supposed to be solved by raids, right? Same with antimatter. Golden antimatter, like, there are extras thrown in here. So if they just equate to what we've been getting from the Chaotic Storm, then we don't have to worry about them shorting us in events where they would have to be putting that extra, right? So if golden antimatter is roughly the same, good. Gear Tier 20 should be a lot higher. Long story short, took us 14 minutes to get there. No, we're not getting less rewards. No, we're not getting enough rewards, okay? Yeah, so as far as the difficulty goes in these nodes, they look really stupid easy. Like even the Thunderbolts node, look at all these old characters. Look at all these old characters they found here. It's kind of crazy, man. Kind of crazy. So in the next video, when I playtest it, we're probably going to talk about characters that you can maybe skip out on. I know a lot of people don't really want to build up Moon Knight for Night Stalkers. People who don't have Orcus yet don't want to have to put too much into them. Vigilante's fine. Thunderbolts, people want to know how much they can skimp out on a character like Ghost or even Vicky Hans, since that team's kind of subpar elsewhere. And then Hellfire Club, I mean, we're going to do real live limit testing tomorrow when the raid goes live, because my team is going to have 3-star characters. So interested in that. And this boss node is pathetic. I have some thoughts about raids. Listen, okay. Let's just look at this boss node first. We have the Extreme team with no Night Crawler. Okay, we have a pretty big Quasar who comes in at like 120. Is he base Quasar? Does he come in at 129 speed? I can't even tell. Probably. He's probably really slow and boring. Okay. It feels very much like this raid, more than any other raid in the past, is simply a tag check. Think back to Orcus raids, okay? Remember when the tech raid first came out, we had to find interesting Sinister Six counters that played better than the Pegasus team did. And for the Night Stalkers, or for the Mystic section, we had to find fun little things we could do with like Ultimus and Bifrost and Mephisto in order to get through those. And that was fun theory crafting that made the raids kind of feel like a 2 or 3 week event until we solved those puzzles, right? There's no puzzle to be solved here because of how prescriptive it is. Because they are forcing you to use an exact team that enemies they put on that node have to be countered by your team. So it feels more than ever like it's just a check. And I think there was a strike spot where the general manager kind of commented on that. And truth be told, raids always eventually devolve into just a check. For the Orcus raids, as soon as we had the Orcus team come out, we had Night Stalkers come out, it was just a tag check. You would just hit sim and you would go with it, right? So they're getting to that point sooner for the raids. And so players, I've heard a lot of this from players, they're now concerned about like, why would I build up the entire Night Stalker team? They're just for one node. Like, it doesn't feel good if I'm building up a team just because they are the tag and I have to use them there. And the answer Scopely has given to this problem, I'm actually okay with. I might get some flack for that from you guys, and that's fair. Think about the Hellfire Club team, right? This is not a good team in War, in Crucible, or in like a Sword Satellite or something. Maybe the Sword Satellite would be okay just because of new stats, right? But in War and Crucible, this is not a good team. They're so easily manipulated and countered. But Rachel goes to Immortals and Crucible. It's much a better team. Azazel goes to a Cursed Crucible. A marginally better team. Emma goes wherever the hell she pleases. And that's a much, much better team, right? Same with the Insidious 6 team that obviously we don't have here. The Insidious 6 characters themselves, they look okay. Superior Spider-Man, who we're going to have a video out tomorrow, like he definitely elevates that team quite a bit, right? But I still am going to be relying on like Green Goblin Classic to really get them off the ground in Crucible. So there's some plug and play there. They got Scorpion going to Infestation the same way as Azazel and Rachel did their thing. We get some plug and play there. It's a lot more fun, right? Night Stalkers, just these three: Man-Thing, Blade, Oath. You put like a Quasar or a Mephisto or an Odin, one of these, and all of a sudden you have like a top tier War offense team. You could put these guys with like a Scientist Supreme, and that's a B tier Crucible defense team, right? So there's interesting things we can do with these teams. The Vigilante, unfortunately, we have to keep the Vigilante as a full 5-piece, but they're great in Crucible. They're great in War. So you're actually getting good value from these teams, right? The Orcus team, once thought to be absolutely trash because everyone was trying to force them on defense, we start using them on offense, and all of a sudden, they're a really good B-tier, like, master-killing team when it comes to War. And people start getting really good value out of this team, right? So as long as the teams are like that, then I'm actually okay with raids being exactly what it looks like they're devolving into, which is just have the tag, have them built marginally to what they need to be built, and you could sim it. And then if you want to go extra on that team, you want to go extra on Azazel, you want to go extra on Rachel, they're going to be great in other game modes. So you kind of get them to where they need to be for raids, and then you could pick the characters you want to go extra on, and they get to go play with other teams. I think that's really cool. I think it's a much better way to do raid teams, because I think back to some of the raid teams like Pegasus, and I freaking hated Pegasus, man. So if instead of the old Pegasus blueprint, we get what we're currently getting, that's great. That's great. There's an exception to this, and you know I had to bring it up. Thunderbolts are trash. Thunderbolts are trash, and I hate them. I will not deny that Songbird is a great, awesome, super fun character, and she flies off, and she abandons these guys, and they are garbage after that, right? Taskmaster, I know, Taskmaster can play with Underworld, Taskmaster can play with, like, Mercs, and it is pretty good. Taskmaster's got some good war use. But I don't want to acknowledge that. I'd rather try and, as a community, we gaslight the developers into thinking we think Thunderbolts are just horrible all around, and they need to put out a team with Yelena, who then joins the Thunderbolts for some sort of war or Crucible team. Okay, guys, we got to do this. We got to gaslight the developers so we can get a Yelena put in the game and reworked and get all those awesome buttons put on this team, because they are all buttonless, okay? Pocketless. Sorry, pocketless. We need pockets. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm at, guys. As long as the Omega version at least has the same sort of differential as far as Gear Tier 20 goes to the normal version for the Annihilation, I think that is going to be somewhat more acceptable, but I think they should go further, because it's already a built-in progression system. We need more rewards, right? I think it's good that they're pushing the Omega to make sure that they hit either that reward, if that's what they're changing, or they're hitting some different gameplay stuff. I think that's also good, and that's also important. The nodes look stupid easy, so we need to make sure that we're actually getting value from our teams, and I think that they've done a pretty good job with the exception of Thunderbolts. I'd love to see some love to the Thunderbolts team. Let me know what you guys think.